really matters? That might be the most important question you can ask. So let's talk about it. Welcome to What Really Matters podcast, Everyday Spirituality with Karen Wyatt. Thank you for joining me here today. I'm putting this episode out a little bit late, and there's an excellent reason for that, because for the last 3 or 4 days, I've been meeting and getting to know my brand new baby granddaughter, my first grandchild to come into the world. And so I've been a little preoccupied with her birth happening and then being able to actually hold her in my arms for the first time. But I wanted to come on and share just a short episode, partly to acknowledge that this is such a profound time for me in my life and for any of us when we've experienced the birth of a child. It's so miraculous, and it's amazing that it can happen at all. It's the most incredible experience to look at their tiny faces, to feel their little fingers holding yours, and listen to their breathing and even to their crying, and just seeing them come into this world and begin to learn about the world and to experience their own life here. It's really phenomenal and so beautiful. And the moment that she was born, a thought came into my mind, which was, for her, I will live every day with hope, with trust, and with love. And what occurred to me is that this baby granddaughter of mine and all of her generation are being born into very precarious times. And we all know that. We all know that we're at some sort of a crisis point, a juncture, a tipping point in our world, on our planet, in our society as well. And all of us probably feel some trepidation right now, and we wonder, what are these little tiny spirits coming into right now? What kind of world is this that they're being born into? And how are we going to shield them, nurture them, teach them, and help them grow in a way that they will have a productive life here, that they will be able to become their full selves and be who they truly are. And so while that is a thought that could bring some despair, just looking around at what's happening in the world, I think what each of us has to know is that it is within our own power to decide, what kind of mentor am I going to be? What kind of guide will I be for these younger generations that are growing up in our world right now? And as I said, what came to me is that I want to be a guide who lives in hope and trust and love. That is what I want to teach and convey. And there's tremendous power and strength in those virtues. And I think it's so important that we not lose sight of that and not forget that at this time in our history. I was talking with a friend the other day, and she was feeling a lot of despair about what's happening with climate change around the planet, but also with political unrest and here in our own country. And I told her it reminds me of that scene I've seen in a few movies now, where there's a car that almost drives off the cliff, and it's hanging there with 2 wheels off the cliff and the back 2 wheels still on the ground up above, and in such a precarious position, and that the passenger inside has to figure out what to do. How do I keep this car from falling off the cliff? And that it occurs to me, in that situation, the worst thing to do would be to panic and start flailing around and screaming and losing control, because that might be the very thing that tips the car off the cliff. and that a precarious moment like that calls for calmness, calls for courage, for all the wisdom that we can possibly muster. And I think that's where we are right now. We cannot give in to despair or hopelessness. We have to find within ourselves enough courage to actually move a little bit more slowly and to be very calm and very thoughtful about everything we do, so that we know that we're acting from a place of true love and that we're doing what is needed in each and every moment, and not just reacting from our egos and entering into a state of fear and panic. And so this is the commitment I'm making for the sake of my baby granddaughter and for all other little souls who are coming onto this planet right now. I want to be a wise guide and a teacher for them. And so I wrote down 5 things to remember as we're going through these times and to help us be better guides. And the first is to remember that life has always been uncertain. Uncertainty is just built into life. From our perspective, it feels as if the world is in the worst place it has been in since we were born. For most of us, this seems like we're in the worst possible predicament we could ever be in. But when you look back through history, there have been many other times when the planet has been, in fact, the planet has gone through 5 previous extinctions, when there has been a great deal of stress and strife and pain and suffering on this planet for all of the life forms of this planet. And so what is happening right now is not new. There is newness to it because we are different humans than have ever been on the planet before in terms of our capabilities and our technology that we've created, in terms of the ways we are causing stress to the planet by how we live. That's something different than has existed before. But we also have creativity right now, and we have knowledge that we as humanity have not had in the past. And so part of our spiritual journey is to learn to live with uncertainty. And I've been talking a lot recently about the ego versus the soul. The ego cannot stand uncertainty. The ego strives always to take control, to make things as certain as possible. But that's not realistic. That's not even the truth, because life is simply uncertain. We don't know what will happen next. So on the spiritual journey, our higher consciousness is helping us learn how to simply live with uncertainty when you don't know for sure what will happen next, and you don't know for sure what the outcome of your actions will be. That's why you need as much wisdom as possible for every decision that you make, because you cannot see into the future and be sure of what is going to come from the decision that you make. If you operate out of fear and panic, you'll choose the closest possible solution, the thing that feels most comfortable, the thing that eases your fear the most. But those choices may not be the wisest choices. And right now we need wisdom. And our wisdom will come to us when we learn how to sit with the uncertainty and not panic. Just stay within our own centered, calm selves and allow our creativity to flourish. And so the second point is, if there's anything I've learned from watching my baby granddaughter come into this world, is that new life and growth spring from pain. Our own birth process tells us that pain is part of new life and emergence. There is deconstruction before reconstruction. And we are in the phase of deconstruction right now. We are in the place of things falling apart. we're not seeing what new emergence is going to come from this place where we are right now. We don't know what that is yet. We don't even see glimmers of it yet, except in the face of my new baby granddaughter. I see that. But we are in the most challenging time of the growth process, which is when things fall apart before new things can emerge. We're the caterpillar inside the chrysalis that is dissolving away so that a butterfly can form. When you're in the place of dissolving and dissolution and deconstruction, it feels terrifying because you cannot see what's on the other side of it. But we simply have to remember that we've seen this process take place in so many ways in nature and in our own lives, that things fall apart, there's pain and suffering, but something new comes from it. New growth, new life springs forward from this kind of suffering. So we cannot let go of that knowledge. We've seen it. We know that to be true. Remember that in every moment. From whatever pain we're experiencing right now, something new will come. And so the third factor is to learn how to trust that knowledge that we've gained. We've seen it, as I've said, over and over in our lives. Trust that there are going to be new answers we can't see right now, new solutions to the problems that exist. And yes, we can't fix the problems we have right now with our current mindset. We have to allow something new to be born. We have to allow creativity to come into the world for those solutions to appear to us. Again, which is why we need to be in a calm state, because that's when our wisdom and our creativity can come forth. So we have to cultivate our ability to trust, and that means to simply be in a state of awareness that somehow things do get better. Somehow new things emerge, new things happen, new life comes to the world. And trust that that is going to happen again. Emergence is going to happen. Answers will be there. Creativity will arise. We have to have trust in it. And if we're sitting in the car with two wheels off the cliff, we have to somehow trust that we can figure this out. We are going to figure out how we get to safety without causing the car to crash over the cliff. And then the fourth thing to remember is that the arc of development of humanity is toward greater wisdom and greater compassion, even though we lose sight of that often. But we can look back historically through time at how human beings treat other humans. And I know there's horrific atrocity on the planet right now, horrible things happening in Ukraine and around us, and man's ability to be cruel to man, humankind's ability to be cruel to man, not to gender that statement, but you know what I mean. The ability that we have to hurt one another is massive. And yes, there are people operating out of that place of hatred and animosity and destruction. That is true. But on the overall arc of humankind, the arc bends toward wisdom, toward justice, toward compassion for one another. So again, we have to look at the big picture and look at the overall history. Now, some people would dispute that, but I think if you can get a big enough lens, and if you look at, on the whole, across the world, humankind, I think that you will see that there is more wisdom and more compassion on the planet now from human beings than there has been in the past, even though there continues to be hatred and atrocity. So the fifth is to, in your own life, in my own life, to remember to bring love in at all times, for all things, in all ways possible. Because the best way that we continue this arc toward wisdom and compassion is to contribute to it with our own love, our own wisdom, our own compassion. And to do that, we have to work constantly to cultivate love in our own hearts. So we have to learn how to look at our own fears, look at the hatred and anger that arise within us, not try to repress them or get rid of them, simply learn to understand them. Why am I afraid? Why do I hate? Why am I angry? Why are these feelings here? Allow them to be here, but rise above them by having compassion for ourselves, compassion for our own stories, our own history, our own experiences in life, but to realize that there is this overarching love that is present around us at all times. It's available to us. It flows through us. The more we open ourselves, the more we heal our old wounds, which are obstacles to love flowing in, the more we can be vessels and channels of love for ourselves, for our own lives, for our own children and grandchildren, for the planet itself, for all of humanity. So the more we're willing to allow those negative feelings to come to the surface so we can look at them, embrace them, love them, heal them, the more we will be capable of bringing love to the planet. And the more we will be inspired to do the right things that can help us prevent falling off the cliff, because it isn't necessary. We don't have to fall off this cliff. It's possible. It's possible to regain our stability and our balance. But we have to keep ourselves in the right frame of mind and with the right open heart during this time. And so this is going to be a shorter one than usual because I'm excited to get back into grandmother mode. But I have a poem to share with you, which is once again from Jared K. Anderson's book, Love Notes from the Hollow Tree. This is the first poem I read of Jared's that inspired me to buy his book of poetry, all of which is wonderful, so I highly recommend it. This poem is titled Forsythia. As forsythia grows tall, its branches bend beneath their own weight, bowing to the ground in arches of yellow flowers. Wherever they touch the earth, the branches root again and send up new shoots, stitching gold across the landscape. Some new kinds of knowledge shift our center of gravity, staggering us, bending us low beneath the burden. If you think of your worldview as a stone tower, this shift is a cataclysm of splintered rock. If your worldview is forsythia, then every startling truth that bends you low becomes a new connection to the earth, a new way to stand, an invitation to grow. We live in a time of strong wind and sudden pressure. It is not an age for towers. It's an age for stubborn flowers. So this week I urge you to remember to be the stubborn flowers, able to bend with the pressure that we're under and move, but able to reconnect with the earth and grow into new life. So I'm sending you all of my love from my heart, which is fully opened right now in this moment from becoming a grandmother for the first time. And I hope that you can find love and wisdom and compassion and some hope and some trust every day right now in your life as well. And until we're together next week, remember that we're here for love. that's why we came here at all, to learn how to love. So face your fear, be ready for whatever life brings you next, and love each and every moment of your precious life. Bye-bye.